Welcome to That's So Nourishing. In this episode, we are going to dive deep into stories, the stories that we tell ourselves. Stories are such a foundational piece of our lives. We are always telling ourselves a story about something. And depending on the story that we tell ourselves, we will act in accordance. We will either act in ways that really support our dreams and our goals and what we want and how we want to show up and feel in life, or we will close off and contract and have stories that are holding us back from what it is we actually want and how we actually want to see ourselves and what the ultimate truth is of who we are. Stories will really dictate so much of our lives. And a lot of times we're running these on autopilot and we don't even know. We don't even know the stories we're telling ourselves about ourselves or other people or our interactions because we've had them ingrained for so long that they just run in the background and again, control our lives. So in this episode, I wanted to really break down these stories and what they are so we can start to pull ourselves out of them and see where they're running our lives, what the stories that we have are. And then we'll go into ways that we can start to shift them and start to pull ourselves out of these stories so that we can create the life that we really want, the life that is most empowering for us. Because a lot of times what we forget is that it's our story. We get to create our whole life, our whole story, this book that we're creating, each chapter, each lesson, each way we move through life, we get to create that. This is our story. First, by noticing the stories that we are already telling ourselves and starting to pull us out of those, that can give us the agency to start to really write and create that story that we're ultimately desiring. We create stories about everything in life. That's ultimately how the mind works. We are meaning-making machines, and the mind remembers things in story. If someone tells you that they're 5'5", you might think, oh, cool, they're 5'5", and forget it. But if someone tells you I'm 5'5" and I really wanted to be on the basketball team, so I went to these tryouts and I was making these shots, but I just kept missing them because all these taller guys were just whacking the ball out of my hands. And because I'm 5'5", I didn't make the team. You're going to remember because they're 5'5" that they didn't make the team versus just remembering that they were 5'5", because there's an emotion tied to it. There's a story. The mind loves the drama, the hero's journey. We want to hear that in people. That's why we love movies, we love shows, because we love stories. And the mind latches onto it because we remember things if there's an emotion tied to them. And through stories, we can really relate to people and we can see ourselves in them and we can relate to ourselves. It's how we can kind of categorize the world. We create stories about ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, who we are, the way we relate to ourselves, and the way we relate to others and in relation with others. We create stories about situations versus what's actually happening, and then the story that we layer on top of it that we believe is happening. We create stories about other people, why they did what they did, who they are, what their tone means, if they care or not, what type of person they are. Whole stories about other people or what other people think of us and then act in accordance with those. And stories about the world, what the world is like, what different cultures are like, what people who are different from me are like, what people all the way across the world are like, and just all these pieces. And then based on all these stories that we have in these different areas, we act accordingly and we show up differently. And when these stories are running on autopilot and we're unconscious to them, a lot of times they don't really serve the life that we actually want to create. So it is my intention to help you start to become aware of these stories and start to kind of track and see, well, is this story actually supporting me? Is this one that I want to hold on to? And can I pull myself out of this story in the moment? Am I even in a story? And when we can have that awareness, we can really start to take more agency over our lives. We as humans are meaning-making machines. We are constantly making meaning over everything. That is what the mind does. We are making these meanings based on the perspective that we have, which is based on our previous life experience, things that we learned as a child, beliefs that we took on, different survival patterns we have, conditioning from the world, our experiences in the world, parents, teachers, classroom, all these pieces make up the way that we see the world. And then the stories that we have about ourselves, about other people, about situations, and about the world. So we're all seeing things differently because of these lenses that we have on. I know back in the day, before I started doing a lot of this work, I thought that everyone just felt the same as me or thought the same as me and kind of experienced things similar. And I realized that that is actually far from true, that everyone, based on their own experiences, their own life stories that they've created, are seeing things a different way. Because of all of the things I just shared, they're seeing each situation differently. So two people can experience the same situation very different based on the story that they are telling themselves about it. And one person can experience themselves very differently based on the story that they are telling themselves about themselves. Stories are so powerful. It's as if we are living in this play, the drama. We have these moments, these highs, these lows, all of this throughout our lives is all a big story. So let's play in that today. I like to think about it as we're all wearing these different goggles. Depending on the goggles that we're wearing, we're going to perceive things differently. We're going to tell a different story. So someone who's wearing goggles that have been shaped by their life experiences that maybe consisted of a lot of limiting beliefs, a lot of lack, a lot of scarcity, they're going to make a completely different story about a situation than someone who's wearing goggles that support that they were so loved, that they get what they want in life, that they're enough, that they can do whatever they want. That person is going to create a very different story. And from everyone's goggles, they're going to make completely different meanings of situations. As I share all of this, we can even recognize, oh, none of this is fact. This is all just meaning that I'm making. An example that I love to utilize is this example of someone who's out to dinner. So person A is out to dinner. They're waiting for their partner. Their partner is about a half an hour late. Person A starts freaking out and they haven't heard from them. So person A is like, oh my gosh, what is happening to my partner? Are they okay? What's going on? Did they get in an accident? I'm freaking out. I don't know. Let's call everyone. We got to call hospitals. We got to freaking out. It's person A. Person B is out to dinner waiting for their partner who's 30 minutes late. They haven't heard anything. They go, that asshole, how dare he stand me up? Why isn't he here yet? Is he with someone else? What is he doing? This is so rude. This is the last straw. I am done with this. Person B. And person C is at dinner waiting for their partner who's 30 minutes late. They haven't heard from them. They're just hanging, having some wine, maybe some bread. And they go, let me text my partner and see what's going on. I hope he's okay. I'm sure there's a justified reason that he didn't get back to me or that he's not here. And they text their partner and just go on. You can see here, it's the same situation. Completely different experiences because of the stories that they created. Hence, you can see how stories are so powerful in the way that we experience life. This affects all areas of our life. This happens in social situations. Start to think how you show up, the stories that you tell yourself about social situations. If we believe and we have stories that everybody loves me or that I get to go into a room and own it, that's going to create a very different social situation than thinking, oh, people don't like me, or the story that someone is looking at me weird. It's going to create a very different experience. We have stories about our health. If we believe I'm someone who is super fit, who's super healthy, we're going to exercise and eat in a certain way in accordance with that. If we have stories telling ourselves we're lazy, that working out is hard, that we don't need to do it, then we're going to show up very differently. In our careers, if we have stories that we can create whatever we want, that how much we put in is what we get out, or that we work hard, that's going to create one reality, versus if we have stories that everything is happening to us and our boss is terrible to us and the company isn't great, that's going to create us showing up a completely different way. Same within our businesses. If we create stories around that we get to take agency in our business and that whatever happens is just leading me to where I'm meant to go, that's going to create one reality versus if we have stories in our business that, oh my gosh, there's so much chaos here. I can't do this. This is showing me I shouldn't do this. That's going to create a whole nother story. Just like how in the previous episode, we talked about obstacles. The stories that we make around situations, the stories that we're telling ourselves about obstacles is going to create a very different way that we interface with them and that we show up to them. You can see here that the stories that we tell ourselves in all these areas of life completely shift the experience that we have in them. Even when something happens to us, if we go to the gym and the gym is closed, what do we tell ourselves about that? Oh, it's closed, so I'm just not meant to work out today. Or, oh, so I get to run today outside because it's closed. Or if we fail at something, do we tell ourselves, oh my gosh, I'm such a failure. I should have never tried this. I can't do it again. Or do we say, oh, this just is data showing me that I need to try it a different way. I'm so grateful for this information. Stories about the world. Do we tell ourselves the world is so terrible, it's so bad, I can't go out there, it's so different from me, there's all these things happening. And I know this is quite the time in the world right now. Or do we say, well, I want to see the world for myself. I want to figure it out. I want to create my own stories and get out there and be adventurous and see. Two very different lives. So depending on the stories that we're telling ourselves, we're going to experience things so differently. We're going to create a completely different life. These stories, as I share these, it's not always the easiest to shift them or even the easiest to know that we're in them, like I said, because these are so ingrained. A lot of these stories are beliefs that we've had that have been repeated so many times in these stories that we tell ourselves, and they're patterns and survival patterns. And so sometimes we might even be like, why am I thinking that? Or why is this a story? Or why can't I just shift this? But it's so ingrained. A story that can come up for me, for example, I was texting someone. I recently moved to a new place, so I'm meeting a lot of new people, which can kind of bring some stuff up. And I texted this girl, and I know for myself, I don't respond back. Like always, I'm not the best at getting back to people. It can take me a few days sometimes, even a week, depending on what's happening in my life. And I messaged this girl, and she didn't get back to me right away. And instantly, the story I created around it was, oh, does she not like me? Does she not want to hang out with me? Is she ghosting me? And just went there. Even though I could catch myself in it, these stories were so ingrained. The goggles that I was wearing, that's just where it went. And so I'm going to share some tools on how we can pull ourselves out of it. But our mind will just naturally go to these stories because it's sourcing these stories from our past experiences, from these informations to try to make sense of things, trying to make sense of why something's happening, to categorize it in our mind. And we create these neural pathways over time. So then these stories just get ingrained more, and situations will happen that might not actually relate to these stories or really be true. Really, the truth might not actually be what's happening in the story. But because of all these neural pathways, it just instantly goes there. And stories, there's always two sides to every story. So we can start to notice with that, is there something else here? What else could be true? Because again, stories are stories. They're not truth. A lot of us carry the story of not belonging. We hold on to that we're not enough, that we're not lovable, that we're not worthy, that we're not wanted. And this story plays out in so many areas of our lives. And we act a specific way because of that. This story of not belonging is such a big one in our culture and our society. And because of that, we maybe don't be vulnerable. We hold back things we really want to say. We don't go talk to the person that we want to talk to. We don't go share the thing we want to share. And we tiptoe a bit. And then we create more stories around it. Or if we don't believe our story is that we can't have it all, we can't do the things we want to do, then we maybe won't put ourselves out there for the position that we want or show up in a way online with this audacity to get what we want. Or if we believe that someone knows more than us, if that's our story, that other people know more of than us, then maybe we won't share the amazing insights that we have and we'll hold ourselves back in that way. I want us to go into the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves here, because this is a big piece of our identity and really affects so much of our life experience. So what do you tell yourself about yourself? Some of the stories are, I'm anxious or I'm stressed, like we talked about in the baseline episode, or they can do that and not me, or I'm not enough, or I'm not healthy, or I'm just not the type of person who, whatever it is, or I don't do that. Maybe you do, but not me. Or I'm not adventurous. I'm not spontaneous. Whatever these things are. These are stories that we tell ourselves that then become our identity. In relation with others, we tell ourselves stories. Ooh, I'm not a social person. I'm not good at that. I'm someone who's awkward. These ways that we relate to ourselves in these stories, and we act a certain way. I'm not cool. I'm not fun. Whatever it might be, these stories that we tell ourselves. And then these stories around situations. One thing happens and our mind goes to make this whole story around it. A partner or someone you're newly dating texts you and says, I need to talk to you. Instantly, your mind goes to worst case scenario. Oh my gosh, what if they want to break up with me? What if they don't like me anymore? What if we're done? What if they're telling me something I did wrong? And you spiral and spiral and spiral. And then it turns out they just wanted to tell you how much they care about you and how much they want to continue seeing you and all the things they love about you. And you're like, wait, that? I just went off the deep end. Oh, that's what you wanted to tell me? But we make this whole story around it. Or if a client texts you and they say, hey, I have something I want to bring up to you. Instantly, maybe your heart goes, oh my gosh, are they wanting a refund? Like, what happens? I don't know. What do I do in that situation? Oh my gosh, I don't know. And then they just tell you, I just want to tell you how much you changed my life. And I wanted to hop on a call and to tell you that. Or at your job, your boss says, I need to talk to you. And you say, okay, but your heart's pumping, you're getting all nervous. And you can see in each of these, there's just something saying something. That's it. Someone is just saying one thing. We don't know what it means, but we make this whole meaning of it. Same if a friend does something you don't want them to do. Maybe they're not there for you in the way that you really needed them to be. And instead of just telling them that and asking what happened, getting to the truth of it, we create this whole story around how they're not a good friend, how they should have known better, how they don't care about you, they don't love you, they're not there. And this is so natural. We all do this. And stories about other people. If someone says something in a certain tone, we think, oh my gosh, they must not have liked what I said. Or they must not like me if someone gives you a certain look. Or when you go into a social environment, you think, oh my God, this person thinks this about me. And so you don't show up. You don't go and actually talk to the person. Or we make opinions and stories around someone if they have a certain level of success. Maybe, oh my gosh, they probably wouldn't want to talk to someone like me. Or oh my gosh, they must be like this. Or if they have money, oh, they must be this way. They must be mean. They must be rude. They must be not nice, whatever it is. These stories that we've created around these types of people and the world. We have these whole stories around how the world is such a dangerous place and how people are so terrible and how these types of cultures do this and whatever it might be, which of course comes from so many sources, from the news, from our society, from all these places. And we create these stories. Yet then we go out into the world and we see, wait, these people are actually amazing. I have so much in common with them, so much similarity, and the world is such a great place. But we're living from these stories that we create, and they can take us on rides. We can fully go with these stories because, again, that's what the mind is doing. It's going off on all of these stories. That's what it's literally meant to do, to create these stories. What stories are you telling yourself about others, about situations, and about the world? And are they truly serving you? Are they truly serving the life that you want to lead, who you want to become, what you want to create here? Or are you deciding that you already know how something is going to go because of what happened in the past? Are you telling yourself you're the person who things work out for, or the person who always gets overlooked? Or are you the one who figures it out, or the one who things always seem to work out for other people, but not for you? Or the one where everything falls on you, or where you're supported? What is the story that you are telling yourself about your life? And in every single situation, they're just stories. They're very powerful and they're very captivating and we can get all in them and caught up in them, but they're not true. They are just stories. And you are the main character of your own life. We are the main character of each of our lives. So what story do you actually want to be telling yourself? What do you actually want to create here? How do you actually want your life to go and to be? And who do you actually want to be? Because like I said in the beginning, you can change your story. You can turn your page at any moment. It initially takes that awareness. And some deep work can really be necessary, which is what I do with my clients. And if you want to learn some of the deeper work that really revolves around changing your story, I host free live webinars each week, and we really dive into this deep work as well. So I would definitely say get on my email list to get information for those. You can find the link in the show notes. And through just becoming aware of these stories that we are telling ourselves, we can start to create so much change in our life as well. Before I go into how to start shifting these stories and start getting yourself out of them, I really want to reiterate and just highlight that these stories were really formed to protect you. A lot of these stories are protective mechanisms. They're so wise, and they're really trying to keep you safe, and they're so ingrained from getting really set in your neural pathways over so many years. And so it can take time to shift them, and they're also serving such a beautiful purpose as well to really, really protect you and take care of you in such a beautiful way. I'm going to share a few things that can be supportive when it comes to starting to recognize these stories. Because like I shared earlier, sometimes these stories can really take you for a ride, and they're so ingrained and so on autopilot that we don't even realize we're in one. And then we start going on this spiral based on them. And when we can start to recognize it, we can really start to shift things. We will also be doing an episode on limiting thoughts and beliefs that we have, and also on beliefs and emotions. So we're going to break this down a lot more in future episodes too. I just wanted to talk about the story piece in here because we are so enveloped in stories so much throughout our lives. Stories are something we can really start to notice consciously, and then we can get more into those unconscious pieces in future episodes. I mentioned this a bit earlier, but one thing to notice always when it comes to stories is first catching yourself in them. So noticing first, oh, I'm in a story. This story is playing out right now. And just becoming aware can start to separate that story from your full-on lived experience, from like, this is 100% what's happening right now. I'm just, oh, this is a story that I'm creating right now. Okay, I'm noticing that. You can even say the story I'm telling myself about this situation is, the story I'm telling myself right now about myself is, or about this person, whatever it might be. So the story I'm telling myself is, and get clear on what that story is. So you're separating yourself from that story. You're bringing it into the light, into that conscious awareness. And then starting to notice, is this actually true? What actually happened here? Oh, this person just asked me to talk. Okay, that's literally it. Oh, they just didn't respond to my text. Oh, my boss just said this thing to me. Okay, that's it. What meaning am I making? Where am I taking it off into this whole story? I'm just starting to notice that. Like, what is fact here? What is actually happening? What is actually true here in this situation versus what is the story that I'm laying on this? And having so much compassion and acceptance and understanding for that story, because again, it's trying to protect you, and it came from years and years of patterning. And once you can start to separate yourself from it and start to see, okay, what is actually true? A lot of times this might not actually take the charge out of it. I know for me, I typically will have to do some more regulation and more different techniques that I have. But this can just start to create that awareness and start to get your mind thinking and start to shift that neural pathway. And then from there, just thinking, okay, so if this isn't true, what is another way that I could see this? What actually might be happening here? And start to fill your mind with what is actually happening, with what else could be happening. Oh, that person's just really busy. Oh, they just got distracted. Oh, they just want to talk to me. Whatever it might be, just tell yourself what could actually be happening. Oh, they just maybe looked a weird way because they were just in their own head. We're all making up these stories all the time, and we don't even realize that everyone's in their own story. We think that these people are creating stories around us, but a lot of times we're all just in our own stories. But it can feel so real and so visceral what we're feeling. And so validating too, because it's so ingrained in us. A lot of times what we believe, we can start to create in our world as well. We're not trying to fix what happened. We're just noticing. Just noticing and starting to say, okay, if I could tell myself a different story here, what would it be? Or what's a more empowering story I could tell myself? So I understand I'm telling myself I'm lazy, or I'm telling myself I'm not good at this. What's a more empowering story that I could have here? And just start to see what your mind can come up with. Telling myself that this friend isn't supporting me or she doesn't like me, but what's a more empowering story? And just start to see what the mind can have. All while, again, not pushing away the other story or saying how it's bad or making a story on top of that and judging yourself and feeling guilty and shame. Just noticing, having the acceptance, and seeing if we can shift it with curiosity in another way. Just to start building those other neural pathways. And you can also think about when in the past have I felt this way? When in the past have I told myself this similar story and it actually wasn't true? So for me, sometimes I will think, someone, like I said, someone doesn't like me, or I'll be in a situation, I'll be like, they probably thought what I just said was weird and they didn't want to talk to me, and then I'll close off and withdraw. And then that person actually ended up coming up to talk to me or telling me how much they loved our conversation. And I was like, wait, oh my God. So I literally just created that story from that old patterning trying to keep me safe. So I noticed that. And say, okay, that's evidence that I have telling me that isn't true, that story isn't true. So go back, whatever story it is that you're telling yourself, and see, okay, where is a time or multiple times where that actually is proven not to be true? Where is evidence against this story? If you're thinking that you're lazy, that's the story you tell yourself. Where is evidence against this? I actually went to the gym yesterday. I'm listening to this podcast right now. Whatever it might be, find evidence against that. And then take action. Action against the story can be so helpful. It could be so scary, and it can also be so healing. So if you're telling yourself, that person doesn't want to talk to me, but you want to talk to them, go talk to them and see what happens, because maybe they have the same story that people don't want to talk to them. A lot of the times we get so caught up in our own stories naturally because they're our story, it's our life, we're the main character, that we don't realize maybe they have a disempowering story as well that has nothing to do with us, but they're just playing out with each other. Or if we tell ourselves, if the story is that we can't show up online and we're not good at it, go show up online and prove to yourself differently. Go actually take the action to get yourself out of that story, to show yourself that story isn't true. Because 9 times out of 10, it's just a story. If you're making the story up about your friend, that feels so visceral and so true, go talk to them, go ask them and see. And again, that feels so scary, right? That confrontation can feel so scary, that communication. But actually go see what is true. And that action can start to shift and repattern these stories as well. That's one of the best ways that you can do it. A funny tangent too, just that I want to add here, just to really showcase what the mind can pick up on. And again, depending on the stories that we have, the mind is meant to keep you surviving. It wants you to survive. So it's going to look at different ways of how you can survive. Hence why these stories are always protecting you. So I was deleting 1,000 photos from my iPhone the other day. Duplicates, don't worry. I could probably not delete 1,000 normal photos. But anyways, I was deleting 1,000 photos from my iPhone yesterday or the other day. And so many photos of me going to beautiful places, amazing things happening, and that I remember. But the main photo that I remember deleting, that I can literally see in my mind right now, that's the loudest out of all those photos, is this huge photo of a spider that I saw in Africa that I have on my phone. Probably the last thing I would want to actually be focused on and remembering, but that is the biggest one because the mind is like, we need to survive. Take this in, look at this because you need to protect yourself from this. So this is how it's working with stories too. When stories feel so loud and we're caught up and we're even like, this is a story. I know this isn't true. I know this isn't fact, but this story is so loud. Why am I still caught up in it? Well, it's that same thing with the spider because that's what your mind feels it can protect you from. So it's putting up these defenses, these protections to protect you in that way. So even if you could think about the spider example, that can help you start to shift out of the story. I'm just seeing this. I'm so focused here because this is where what it feels isn't safe, what my mind feels isn't safe, that it needs to protect me from, where all these other things and how I want to be feeling, that's not my mind's job to focus on that. So I thought that was a really powerful example that I wanted to share. And always remembering that we have the power to tell ourselves a different story. We can always choose differently. We are that main character. What is the story that you want to tell yourself about your life? How do you want to show up? How do you want to interact with others? How do you want to catch your stories and shift them in the moment? How do you want to see situations? And start to shift your story. What is another story I could tell myself here? What is another story I could tell myself about myself? How could I see this differently? Maybe I'm not just this way. What is a story that I've actually been telling myself that keeps me feeling this way or keeps me believing I'm this way? And just start to go through and dissect all of these stories and see. Because from this awareness is ultimately how we can start to shift them. And how we can start to really take agency over our lives. So to just recap this episode here, a fun-filled story one, is we love stories. The mind loves stories. It attaches to them. It gives us something to hold on to. It gives us a way to make meaning of the world, to see life. And based on our past experiences, we are going to create different stories about ourselves, about different situations, about people, and about the world. And when we can start to become aware of the stories that we are creating in our lives and the stories that we are constantly replaying and living out in our lives, we can start to take agency over our own life and see, are these stories really empowering me? Or are these stories kind of limiting me and holding me back from what I actually want to create in life and how I want my relationships to be and how I want to show up? And we can start to catch ourselves when we're playing out a whole story that might not be serving us and that we can be so caught up in. We can start to just detach and ask ourselves, wait, I'm in a story here. What is the story I'm telling myself here? What is actually true? And how could I see this in a different way? What would be a more empowering story? And if we constantly do this, I promise you, if you constantly start doing this throughout your life and just start becoming aware of all of the stories that you're telling yourself in your life, it's going to shift things so drastically for you. These patterns operate on autopilot and run our lives. If we start to become aware of what is happening and start to shift it, we get that agency. We get that control to, again, create our book, our main character story, the life that we are dreaming of, the version of us that we know is there. And it starts to pop us out of this narrative that we've been living in, of all these ways that we've been telling ourselves. And we get to take agency to start to decide, but what do I actually want to do in this situation? How do I actually want to perceive this? How do I actually want to show up? What's another way I could see this? What's a different option? We might not get it every time. We might not actually be able to shift that. But just from that noticing can start to rewire the neural pathways and start to give us so much agency over our life. And if you are already telling yourself epic stories and you're noticing that, then I want you to give yourself credit for that and notice the areas where you really are choosing the best story for you, the most empowering one, and where your stories are really supporting you. And really honor yourself in that, because that is huge. And see where you're not and where you can start to shift that and use these techniques that you're already doing in other areas to really bring into the areas that you're maybe not doing it as much. These stories that we tell ourselves truly dictate our lives. So I hope from this episode you really got a lot to really start to become aware of the stories you're telling yourself that you maybe weren't conscious to, and to start to notice them in different situations, and now have the tools to start to pull yourself out of them as well, to really create your story. What it is that you choose, because we have way more choice when we start to become aware of these pieces in our lives than we maybe initially realized or believed. So go out, go create your own epic story, and let's get nourished. If this episode resonated with you, I would absolutely love if you could like, share, and subscribe to this podcast and leave a 5-star review as well. It is my mission to support as many women as possible in truly coming back to themselves, rooting into who they truly are, and ultimately become nourished in all areas of their lives. I would absolutely love for you to join me on that mission and help spread this podcast to anyone who you feel that it would be supportive for. Also, it would mean the world to me if you could reach out to me on Instagram. My handle is in the show notes, and let me know how this resonated with you, what you are loving in the podcast, and what you would like to see more of as well, so we can deepen the relationship over there. If you'd like to take these principles deeper and really embody them on a next level in your own life, I invite you to join my email list. The link is in the show notes. I will be emailing you each week. I host live webinars digging even deeper into these concepts and how you can practically apply them into your own life so that you can fully become lit up by life, nourished in all areas, and really embody all of the principles that I share here on this podcast. So again, the link is in the show notes to join. I would absolutely love to have you on there. I provide a ton of value on my list, different practices you can do each week, the webinars that you can tune into, and a lot of other fun goodies as well. And you'll be the first to know about podcast episodes too. So again, hop on over to my email list so that I can fully support you even further, and let's get nourished.